Uninterruptible power supply system technology and implementation has changed dramatically over the last 10 years. Replacing or upgrading a UPS system is not uncommon in the changing world of backup power. In this episode of The Power Grid, we're going to talk about the important factors to consider when looking at a UPS replacement project. We'll discuss when is the right time to replace your UPS system, what factors should be considered in the replacement process, and what type of UPS technology should be used for future flexibility. Hello and welcome back to The Power Grid, a podcast to help you build reliability in your electrical system and give you confidence in your power. I'm Brian Brannigan with Power Protection Products. We have been solving power quality problems for almost 30 years. We are your trusted advisors for critical power, cooling, and energy solutions. Uninterruptible power supply system replacement can be a challenging and difficult task. Factors like end of life, battery replacement, parts availability, and functionality all play a big role in replacing and right-sizing the uninterruptible power supply. It can be very problematic to replace an existing UPS system that has the maintenance bypass, the output distribution, and the UPS system itself all in the same line of cabinets. This will require downtime to rewire an entire system. We once had a customer that had an older uninterruptible power supply system that needed to be replaced. It was on its fourth battery replacement cycle, and the UPS was way oversized for today's needs. It was extremely inefficient on electricity. It was very costly to keep it up, and there were hardly any parts available for that old of a UPS system. This UPS system was actually in a critical healthcare facility and could not go down. Eventually, the critical healthcare facility got to where it needed to go, and that is by ripping and replacing an old UPS system with a new UPS system. The end result of needing to replace this old UPS system was that it required several bids from several contractors. It required to bring in a temporary UPS to operate while the old UPS was being taken away and the new UPS was being put in. As a result of replacing that old UPS system, the critical healthcare facility now has a new UPS system that is more energy efficient, that's modular in nature so it can grow larger or smaller as needed as the load changes. And there's plenty of not only parts availability, but also service engineers that know how to work on this type of UPS platform. And that's why today on the Power Grid, we're going to be talking about UPS replacement projects. An uninterruptible power supply system is a device that provides power to your facility's equipment when the normal power provider cannot. Originally to provide backup power during power fail conditions, but today UPS systems are also expanded in application to cover line and load power quality issues. So we're not only talking about backup power, but we're also talking about constant power filtering for critical equipment. There are three basic types of uninterruptible power supply systems available. In today's podcast, we're going to be talking about true online double conversion UPS using three-phase power, whether it's 208 volt or 480 volt. The benefits of a double conversion UPS system is that it's designed for critical loads. It provides superior power conditioning, and it protects the loads from surges, sags, and transients. They're extremely generator compatible. They have extended battery times available with a full-time inverter. Extended battery life only used during emergencies. They're easy to maintain, and they also have a maintenance bypass switch. Let's talk a little bit about the old best practices when it came to installing a UPS system. First of all, there was usually a bid specification that needed to be met for the UPS installation. And typically the low bid wins in these bid spec situations. So naturally, the contractor wants to find an all-in-one solution to accommodate the needs of the specifications and also allows him to win the bid. Also in the past, UPS systems were oversized for growth, particularly in data centers and healthcare facilities. So an all-in-one uninterruptible power supply system was the contractor's friend. And this all-in-one system included things like a maintenance bypass, maybe even a transformer, the actual UPS and battery cabinet itself, and maybe even power distribution, all in the same cabinet lineup. This type of configuration is obsolete and usually comes to an end-of-life scenario from the manufacturer. When the UPS unit becomes obsolete, the manufacturer sends an end-of-life letter. They do this because parts are hard to get. Could you imagine trying to find a 20-year-old circuit board for a computer today? Almost impossible. But these UPSs are full of circuit boards that are hard to get, display boards that are no longer made. Today's UPS systems will have a common platform for uniformity. They're interchangeable parts and easy to replace components. To rip out and replace an old UPS is not an easy task and requires several things to consider. You might get a letter like this from a manufacturer of an old UPS system. The commercialization of this UPS is now closed, and the last shipments will be finalized by the end of 2010. Spare parts and related support for the UPS shall be available for 10 additional years. So imagine the UPS was no longer available after 2010, and spare parts were only available for 10 years, which would put it at 2020, and you're now sitting on a UPS system that doesn't have available parts and is no longer supported from the manufacturer. So some of the best practices for replacing this type of UPS requires that you select the correct equipment and the correct contractor to work with the project. You have to verify the UPS type and capacity that you choose. You determine the component configuration of the UPS system, such as a maintenance bypass, the actual UPS itself, the battery cabinets, and maybe even the transformer. You have to determine where we're going to place all this equipment with the battery cabinets and the distribution in place, and determine the correct breaker size for this system. And you also have to plan a power outage typically. This scope of work may include things like remove and dispose of the existing UPS system, uncrate the new equipment, visually inspect and check in the new equipment when it comes off the delivery truck, verify the actual wiring configuration of the system, install and wire the UPS and the communication lines, and then perform the UPS startup once it's installed. This would require energizing and starting the UPS, switching from normal to bypass power, switching from bypass to normal operations, switching over to manual bypass, and switching from bypass to normal operation, isolating and de-energizing the UPS system, and all of this has to be done in the presence of a staff that can be trained on the operation of the UPS system. An uninterruptible power supply system in the three-phase power world can be tricky. The past concepts of the turnkey all-in-one UPS solution makes it much harder to replace the old UPS without incurring a lot of downtime. Component level configuration of breakers, transformers, bypass, and distribution must usually all be changed out. An uninterruptible power supply system rip and replacement project has a lot of variables to look at in equipment selection, shutdown processes, wiring, and installation. This should be done by a qualified UPS manufacturer with factory-trained service reps to ensure a smooth and timely completion. Thank you for joining us today. If you are considering an uninterruptible power supply system upgrade or swap out project for your facility, please give us a call to discuss the scope, purpose, and methodology of the project. We'd love to be on your team for this. Check out the link in the show notes for more information.